Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope y'all having a great day. And with the NFL draft just 3 days away this Thursday, I figured that I would do a first round mock draft before I do my final one, which will be on Wednesday. I figured I'd do a mock draft of what I would do if I was the GM making the picks for every team in the first round to give you guys a sense of how I feel about some of these prospects and who I would take if I was each team's GM making the pick. So, with no further ado, let's get into the mock draft. Starting off with first overall, um, it's a pretty simple pick in Fernando Mendoza. Like, I know some people don't think he should be the first overall pick because he doesn't have like the flashy tools that like you see from like other first overall picks that we've seen in the past, but like he's very technically sound and like he's just a smart guy who knows, what to do to win a game. And honestly, if I was the Raiders, I would start him immediately. I know some people disagree about how to start franchise quarter or rookie quarterbacks, but I feel like if a guy starts 3 or more years in college, they have a lot of experience. So I feel like because Mendoza started 4 years, 3 years at Cal, or well, he started 3 years, 2 years at Cal, and one in Indiana. So I feel like he'd be ready to step in and play right away. But I understand them not wanting to, not wanting to force him to start early. But a second overall with the Jets. If I was the Jets, I would go who is a player who I think is arguably the top player in this class, and that's Ruben Bain. I just think like a lot of people hate on him because he has short arms or because they think like he's not going to translate, but he's dominated every level he's played at. He was amazing in high school. I'm pretty sure it was like a 4 or 5 star recruit. He dominated Miami. I mean, helped the Canes to a national championship, and they almost won it against Indiana. And Bain, who I would say is probably my number one overall player. It's between him, Downs, and Love making like my big board just because I don't base it off positional value. I base it off the player's talent. And I think Bain, who I think it's just been overthought in the draft process. Like I think a lot of people say he has short arms, so they're like, "Oh my God, he's not going to be able to play well in the NFL." But he's dominated everywhere he's been, and I would take him if I was the Jets. Like I would ham run like I would say that would be like a home run pick getting Bain at two. We're in the third overall for the Cardinals. Some speculation about if they'll trade back, who they'll take. If I was the Cardinals sticking and picking, I would go with Francis Mauigoa. I know that Mauigoa plays right tackle, which isn't like a super valued position, but it's still offensive line. And like if I'm the Cardinals, why not try to have this offense be really good and then invest into the defense? Like I know a lot of people say they should go Bailey or Reese at third overall, or if they trade back, go defenders. But if you're sticking and picking, I would go Maui No. And you get the opposite, like you get the tackle on the opposite side of Paris Johnson. They brought in Isaac Sayamalu at guard. So you only really have to worry about another guard and center, which they have tried to invest into this offensive line. So I feel like if you get that offensive line situated, you have playmakers on the outside and at running back. Once you get that quarterback, I feel like, especially bringing in Mike LaFleur as an offensive minded head coach, I feel like the Cardinals make a lot of sense to just help out this offense and make sure that it's really good. And then invest into this defense by bringing in playmakers next year and like in free agency. Like I feel like address the offense and then address the defense. The Titans at fourth overall. I know a lot of people think they should go Love or Tate, but if I'm Robert Saleh, I want a guy who wants to like. I want a guy who I can build this defense around. Like he's brought in guys like John Franklin Myers and Jermaine Johnson, who he had time with the Jets, and he has Jeffrey Simmons up front. But I feel like Arvell Reese in this scenario makes a ton of sense. I feel like the Titans should invest on the defensive side. Like I get help me out Cam Ward, but you can invest like they have a top second round pick, so you can invest a wide receiver then. If like one guy falls like early day two. So and the receiver class is really good. I know Jeremiah Love is amazing at the running back position, but I don't think they need to invest into a running back. So if I was Tennessee, I would go with Reese or whoever like the best defender is to Tennessee. I would go that position. Lions at fifth overall. I mean, this could be a number of different directions. I wouldn't go Love. Like I've always had this thought that like if you have a guy who can put up the same production a first rounder can, but they're making a fraction of the money, why invest into a guy at that same position when you already really have it locked up? Like when the like when the Jags drafted Travis Etienne or Etienne, when they had James Robinson, or when the Falcons drafted Bijan, when they had Tyler Algier, like I've never understood that. Like I feel like if you're the Giants, Titans, like yes, you don't have an amazing back, but it's like you have guys who are solid where it's like you don't need to invest in Jeremiah Love. So I feel like if I was the Giants picking, I would go Caleb Downs, which I know safety going this high, but like he's amazing. I feel like he's a top three player in my opinion. And I feel like yes, the Giants could go with a receiver, Tate, Tyson Lemon, but I feel like if you want to have this team succeed, they just recently traded Dexter Lawrence, so they have two first round, two top 10 picks, so they could address receiver at 10 if they wanted to. So I would go Downs here at 5 and know that you'll have a elite player coming over. Like you have an elite player in the secondary who can, be the eyes and ears for everybody and really help this team out. Well, the Browns at 6. I would go with who my wide receiver one is, and that's Jordan Tyson. Like I think a lot of people are lower on him because of the injuries, but he had over 1,000 yards last year despite not playing all 12 games. He had 1,000 yards in 2024. Like he has proven production. It's just a lot of people are like, oh, you know, this guy was banged up last year. He's been banged up in the past. Should we really invest into a guy that's banged up? But I feel like if the Browns stick and pick, which seems like it might end up happening, go receiver. Like there's no tackle worth taking, and you can draft a tackle later on. And so if I was Cleveland, I would pick Tyson to be that wide receiver one, give this team an elite wide receiver. Like they don't have any elite guy. They drafted Fannin, Quinshon Judkins last year, improved this offensive line with another young stud. So whoever that quarterback is of the future will have playmakers at every level on the offense. What are the Commanders at 7? If I was Washington, I think it would come down between David Bailey, Sonny Styles, or Jermon McCoy. I think you could consider Love as a running back. It's just I feel like if you're Washington, this defense like has been so bad. And we saw in 2024 when their defense was average at best, thanks to Daniels and the offense, they were able to be really good. So I feel like they don't need to invest into the offense. I feel like they should invest into the defense. And personally, I would go I would go Sonny Styles at 7 if I was Washington. I know, linebacker this high, but and yeah, they paid Leo Chanel, but Styles amazing off the ball linebacker. I feel like would give Washington and would give Dan Quinn his Bobby Wagner of this defense. Like Sonny Styles, I feel like doesn't compare to Bobby Wagner, but like can be Dan Quinn's Bobby Wagner of the future for Washington. And I feel like this team invested, although McCoy maybe makes more sense, but I'm gonna go Styles. Saints at 8. I'm gonna go David Bailey. I just think, you know, like a lot of people think Bailey's like the best edge rusher in the class, and the Jets should go him at number 2. I don't. I think Bailey just. I think he's all right. I don't think he's as good as people perceive him to be. He is good against the run, just not the greatest. Like he's more so a pass rush specialist than a full complete defensive lineman compared to Ruben Payne. But I think the Saints, who could go receiver, but I feel like this defense has needed a guy. Cameron Jordan's no longer there, so I feel like Bailey makes a ton of sense. And I feel like the Saints going edge rusher makes sense to help out this defense. That was, I feel like, much better than a lot of people give it credit for. But at number 9, Chiefs. I'm gonna go Jermon McCoy. He's my number one corner. I get he was injured last year, but like in 2024, he was so good that like people were saying he was gonna be a top 10 pick lock after that season. He gets injured, doesn't play in 2024. Mansour Delane had this great year, and then people are like, "Oh, Delane's really good. We haven't seen McCoy in a year. What's he gonna look like?" But I think if I was the Chiefs addressing this team's need, which is corner, I would go McCoy because I think he has the higher higher upside to help to the higher upside for this team than I think Delane gives them. Giants at 10th overall. I think I'm gonna go Cardinal Tate. Yeah. I mean, I said it earlier saying they could still go offensive side of the ball. And you lose Wandale Robinson. Neighbors is coming off a huge injury. What's he going to look like? They brought in Isaiah Likely, but you can still do more to help out Jackson Dart. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Tate probably won't fall to 10. We'll see. Maybe the Browns do take Tyson over Tate. We'll see. But I think the Giants would love to get one of the top 3 receivers to help this team out. Dolphins at 11. Jeremiah Love. No, I'm gonna go Mansour Lane at 11. I just think it makes a ton of sense. Miami has really needed a corner for a while. Like even when Jalen Ramsey and Byron Jones were there together, the guys were barely on, or not Byron Jones, Xavier Howard were like barely on the field. They had probably the worst corner room this past year. I think Jeff Hafley is going to want to invest into the secondary. Because, we saw in Green Bay where it's like the reason why the Packers defense in 2024 was much better was because they had the secondary play that could help out that pass rush. And I think Halfley would want to help out the secondary, giving that boost. Cowboys at 12 probably wanted, the Styles or Bailey to fall. Jeremiah Love is right there, and might just say, you know, take the pick. But I'm gonna go with Kobe Fall. I think he's been disrespected throughout the process, and I feel like, yeah, I feel like the what's the word? I feel like the Cowboys in the scenario with a lot of the top defensive players off the board, I would go with um Keldrick Fall. Rams at 13. I'm going with Kai Lemon. I just think Lemon makes a ton of sense. Like you could go. I mean, some people have been saying Jeremiah Love if he's available. Personally, I like if I'm a team drafting Jeremiah Love, which I probably should have had him going to the Commanders at 7 because I've been liking that. I just decided to go Styles. Anyway, I think Lemon is an amazing player, and look, Devontae Adams 1 year deal, and apparently has been shopped in trades, so there's not a definite future. They're gonna have to pay Puka. Lemon, the Cali kid, stays local and joins the Rams. Ravens at 14. I'm going Vega Water. I just, as a Ravens fan, I just pencil in the Ravens going interior offense. I would love one of the receivers if they got there. Sadiq, I wouldn't hate. Like if they get Lamar a weapon, fine by me. But invest into this interior offensive line. Like it was the worst last year. Like Tyler Linderbaum had a down year because the guards he was playing with were so bad that he was basically having to play 3v or 2v1 basically, ugh, because the guards just were not being able to stop anybody. Yes, they have Edward Jones, who I could, maybe be a right guard for them, which is still I don't know why they paid John Simpson. I feel like Vega can plug in at left guard and give this team a like guy in the interior to help out this offensive line, get it back to Ravens standards because Ravens are always known for great offensive line play. This year it was horrible. They need to improve that. Bucks at 15. Oh, CJ Allen, which I know might seem high for Allen, but look, they brought in Alex Anzalone, but Levante David retired, which I mean, it wasn't going to stop you from drafting a linebacker, but their other linebacker, I think, is Servassier Dennis, who is fine, but I don't think is that great of a pick or that great of a player. And CJ Allen, I feel like it's kind of been underrated. Like I feel like most people have said he's like a late first, early second rounder. I think more has been pushed into second round, third round. I think he's a probably top 25 player in the class. And I feel like the Bucks instantly could help out this defense, really give it another great player. Jets at 16. Receiver is a need. And I think, you know, I think they would love a wide receiver, but I don't think there's one available for this early. Maybe if you kind of wish they had fall. I'm going to go corner with Avion Terrell, who I think has been underrated. throughout a lot of this draft process. And I think the Jets, like, if in my opinion, if the top three receivers aren't there, don't take a receiver. A lot of people have been penciling in Omar Cooper Jr., which I think is way too high for him. I think he's a early second round pick. Yes. So personally, if I was the Jets, I just would go with either an offensive lineman or a defensive player to help this team out. Lions at 17. I'm gonna go with Spencer Fano. You can move that. Yeah, you can move Penei Sewell back over to the left side, which he played in college at Oregon. Fano can pencil in at right tackle. He also can play guard and center. So if the Lions ever have injuries, they could move him, into one of those spots, and he would still be really good. And a guy who once upon a time was mocked up like third overall to the Cardinals. This could be a really good steal. Vikings at 18 is where I'm going to turn my love. I just think, I mean, I know I said Washington earlier, but I think if you're the Viking, like if you're a team like the Vikings, who you know, Aaron Jones was brought back on a restructured contract. They have Jordan Mason, but like they don't have a true future running back the way other teams I feel like in the top 10 do, even like the top 15. I mean, I could do the Ravens possibly, you know, replacing getting the replacement for Derrick Henry, even though I think that'd be weird. Panthers at 19. I'm gonna go with Monroe Freeling. Ike Ekwonu tore his Achilles or ACL back in January, so is going to be out for the entire season. They signed Rasheed Walker to a 1 year deal. So both Walker and Aquano are 2027 free agents. Why not just draft a left tackle to help this team out? Like draft the future left tackle in Monroe Freeling, who I think, well, a lot of people I think do like him. I feel like he's been a little too overhyped, and I feel like this is a better range for him. Cowboys at 20. I'm going to go Dylan Thiedemann. Bring in Jalen Thompson from the Cardinals, which I thought was um, a nice pickup, but you still need to bring in another safety. I went Keldrick Falk earlier to improve that pass rush. Go Dylan Thiedemann to help the secondary out and end the first round with two really talented defensive players to complement this offense. Now the Steelers at 21 could go receiver, and I would hate it. Um, could go tackle, maybe push them into guard, but I feel like this team should invest into the quarterback position, and I am gonna have Ty Simpson. I would go Simpson if I was the Steelers. Like I know, like last year, yeah, I thought Shador a slam dunk pick for the Steelers. Like I just think, like you can't keep on like bringing back Rodgers and drafting guys on day three as like maybe project hits the way they did with Will Howard. You have to invest into a first round quarterback. I know Kenny Pickett did work out, but Simpson is a better player and he can learn. And he can sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year and develop. And then in 2027, which just is a better QB class, but if this team is bringing back Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be competing to make the playoffs. So more than likely, they're not going to have a top pick. Why not try to invest into the QB position now and not wait for the future? Chargers at 22. I'm going to go with Keem Mesidor. I'm not the highest on Mesidor. I think it was older age. Should be put into um should be hurting him because he's gonna be 25. So if you draft him in the first round, he'll be like close to 30 by the time his rookie contract is up, which a guy 30. But I think a Chargers, like I think if Mesidor does go in the first round, it should be like to a team like the Chargers, maybe the Eagles, trying to compete for a playoff spot. And I think Mesidor makes a lot of sense. Eagles at 23. I'm gonna go Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Might seem a little high, but you lose Reed Blankenship. Still have Andrew Makuba, who they took in the second round last year. Yeah, they already drafted one Toledo DB, Quinion Mitchell, so they clearly value those Toledo DBs. Why not go EMW and really help out this defense to um, make it, because it's going to be the unit that, at least early on, is going to carry this team to wins. Brown at 24th. I'm going to go with Caleb Lomu. I think, the Browns should go wide receiver at sixth overall, unless they trade down and maybe they go. But they address right tackle and the guards. So really, what's left in the first round to select is left tackle, and I think the Browns could land a guy like Lomu. Maybe they like Proctor or Iahanichor. Maybe they trade back from sixth and draft Monroe Freeling. It's possible, but I think they stick and pick, receiver, then tackle, and you fill out those two big needs in the first round to get impact players for this team that hopefully will be a lot more competitive this upcoming season. But on the Bears at 25th, I'm going to go with Jay Parker out of Clemson. I'm a huge Parker fan. I think he could end up being the best edge rusher out of this class. I think he had a down 2024 2025 season, my bad, but had an amazing first 2 years in 23 and 24. I think on a Bears team that needs the defense to improve in many ways after last year, they very much relied on turnovers and getting lucky. And I think Parker, who I think is a first round talent, he just had a down year. Could be the perfect late round steal for a team looking to help out their defense. Bills at 26th. I'm gonna go Denzel Boston. I think I think him and Concepcion are better than Omar Cooper and a Bills team that, yes, they traded for DJ Moore. So you bring it, but you still need to improve this wide receiver room. You have Khalil Shakir, but not much else after that. Keon Coleman's days are pretty much numbered at this point. Denzel Boston could be that, you know, other outside guy with DJ Moore to give Josh Allen, guys who can go down the field and make these tough catches to help this team out. Niners at 27. I'm going to go kicking Sadiq. George Kittle, who knows when he'll be back after tearing his Achilles in the playoffs. Sadiq, who, isn't a traditional tight end, like in the blocking sense, he's a great receiving tight end. I think could be, a guy, because Niners always have good, blocking tight ends outside of George Kittle. So I feel like the Niners, if Sadiq's available, which who knows if he will be, I feel like the Niners make a lot of sense for this guy. And it'd be a great pick to help out this offense. Texans at 28. I'm going to go with Peter Woods. I just think, and like, you could say tackle and maybe like move Proctor to guard, or maybe you like one of these guards like Basatis or Pregnon, and you want to take them. But I think they have a high second round pick, so they can invest into the offensive line. Then why not finally improve this defensive tackle position, which has really been the lone um, weakness on this defense. Like they've had great edge play, linebacker, corner, safety. Like everything outside of the interior has been pretty good. They just paid Will Anderson Jr. $50 million a year, which is crazy. But what I think would be amazing, Chiefs at 29 went with, I think it was Jermon McCoy. I'm gonna go with Casey Concepcion. I think in this Andy Reid offense, he'd be amazing. And I think, if they go corner at 9, you can address the receiver position down here with their second first round pick and can give Mahomes another weapon. You can bring Kenneth Walker. They have Rice, Worthy, Kelsey's back. You can bring in another weapon to help out Mahomes or Justin Fields early on in the season. Dolphins at 30th, went to Lane earlier. I'm going to go with Blake Miller here. Um, I think, investing to the offensive line should be a priority. I think the Dolphins, could be a run first team with Achane and Willis. And I think Blake Miller, who right tackle, because they do have Patrick Paul, the prior regime drafted, so maybe they'd want to go with like Proctor or Hamid Shore, but Blake Miller, I think, could slot into that right tackle spot, improve this offensive line, and could really give Willis a better shot. They could draft receivers on day 2 and 3 and help him out there. But why not help him out by also bringing in a tackle? Patriots at 31. I'm going to go edge rusher with Cassius Howe. I think guy's been underrated, kind of like with Ruben Mann with the short arms. Is this guy going to be productive? But he was productive in college, just like Mann. I think he's better than his former A&M teammate Shamar Stewart, who went a lot earlier than this. Like I think I would take Howe over Stewart, and I think a Patriots team that wants to consistently be in the playoffs, competing to make it to the Super Bowl. When you lose guys in free agency, you got to make these right picks, and I think Howe would be an amazing pick. And then 32nd, the Seahawks. I'm gonna go corner to finish out this first round of what I would do if I was the GM for every team. And yeah, I think you guys can let me know down in the comments what you do. And then um I'll have my full predicted mock draft on Wednesday and what I think will happen on Thursday. And then I'll be live on both Thursday night and Friday night, along with a double upload on Friday, reacting to the picks and making a second and third round mock draft. But until then, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday.